toward the whirlpool of hypnotic rhythm, until you discovered how to force me into making this confession. Then I lost control of you. Q. How interesting. You are not trying to recapture me through flattery, are you? A. That would be the best bribe I could offer you. It is the bribe I used on you effectively before you got the upper hand of me. Q. With what did you flatter me? A. With many things, chief among them sex and the desire for self-expression. Q. What effect did your bribes have on me? A. They caused you to neglect your major purpose in life and started you to drifting. Q. Was that all you did to me through your bribes? A. That was plenty. Q. But I am back on the track and out of your reach now, am I not? A. Yes, you are temporarily out of my reach because you are not drifting. Q. What broke your spell over me and released me from the habit of drifting? A. My answer may humiliate you. Do you want to hear it? Q. Go ahead and give it to me, Your Majesty. I wish to learn how much truth I can stand. A. When you found a great love in the woman of your choice, I lost my grip on you. Q. So you are going to accuse me of hiding behind a woman's skirts, are you? A. No, not hiding. I wouldn't put it that way. I would say you have learned how to give yourself a solid background with the embellishment of a woman's mind. Q. The woman's skirt has nothing to do with it then. A. No, but her brain does. When you and your wife began to combine your two brains, through your habit of masterminding, every day, you stumbled upon the secret power with which you forced me into this confession. Q. Is that the truth, or are you trying to flatter me again? A. I could flatter you if I had you alone, but I cannot flatter you while you have the use of your wife's mind. Q. I am beginning to catch on to something important. I am beginning to understand what was meant by the writer of that passage in the Bible which says substantially, when two or more meet together and ask for anything in my name, it shall be granted. It is true, then, that two minds are better than one. A. It is not only true, it is necessary before anyone can continuously contact the great storehouse of infinite intelligence wherein is stored all that is, all that ever was, and all that can ever be. Q. Is there such a storehouse? A. If there had not been, you could not now be humiliating me with this silly forced confession. Q. Isn't it dangerous to give this sort of information to the world? A. Sure, it is dangerous to me. If I were you, I would not give it out. Q. Let us get back, now, to the technique through which you fasten on your victims the habit of drifting. What is the very first step a drifter must take to break the habit? A. A burning desire to break it. You of course know that no one can be hypnotized by another person without his willingness to be hypnotized. The willingness may assume the form of indifference toward life generally, lack of ambition, fear, lack of definiteness of purpose, and many other forms. Nature does not need one's consent in order to place him under the spell of hypnotic rhythm. It needs only to find him off guard, through any form of neglect to use his own mind. Remember this. Whatever you have, you use it or you lose it. All successful attempts to break the habit of drifting must be done before nature makes the habit permanent, through hypnotic rhythm. Through this same law of hypnotic rhythm, nature will also fix permanently positive thoughts of opulence and prosperity. Perhaps you will better understand the working principle of hypnotic rhythm if I tell you its nature is to fix permanently all habits whether they are mental or physical. If your mind fears poverty, your mind will attract poverty. If your mind demands opulence and expects it, your mind will attract the physical and financial equivalents of opulence. This is in accordance with an immutable law of nature. Hill first wrote about the law of attraction in the March 1919 issue of his Golden Rule magazine. Within the last decade, this immutable law of nature has been popularized around the world by the resounding success of the book and movie The Secret. Hugh did the writer of that sentence in the Bible, "Whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap," have in mind this law of nature. He could have nothing else in mind. The statement is true. You can see evidence of its truth in all human relationships. Hugh. And that is why the man who forms the habit of drifting through life must accept whatever life hands him. Is that correct? That is absolutely correct. Life pays the drifter its own price, on its own terms. The non-drifter makes life pay on his own terms. Hugh. Doesn't the question of morals enter into what one gets from life? To be sure, but only for the reason that one's morals have an influence on one's thoughts. No one can collect what he wants from life merely by being good, if that is what you want to know. Hugh. No, I guess not. I see what you mean. We are all where we are and what we are because of our own deeds. No, not exactly. You are where you are and what you are because of your thoughts and your deeds. Hugh. Then there is no such reality as luck, is there? Emphatically no. Circumstances which people do not understand are classified under the heading of luck. Back of every reality is a cause. Often the cause is so far removed from the effect that the circumstance can be explained only by attributing it to the operation of luck. Nature knows no such law as luck. It is a man-made hypothesis with which he explains away things he does not understand. The terms luck and miracle are twin sisters. Neither of them has any real existence except in the imaginations of people. Both are used to explain that which people do not understand. Remember this. Everything having a real existence is capable of proof. Keep this one truth in mind and you will become a sounder thinker. Q. Which is more important, one's thoughts or one's deeds? All deeds follow thoughts. There can be no deeds without their having first been patterned in thought. Moreover, all thoughts have a tendency to clothe themselves in their physical counterpart. One's dominating thoughts, that is, the thoughts one mixes with the emotions, desire, hope, faith, fear, hate, greed, enthusiasm, not only have a tendency to clothe themselves in their physical equivalent, but they are bound to do so. Q. That reminds me to ask you to tell me more about yourself. Where, in addition to the minds of people, do you dwell and operate? I operate wherever there is something I can control and appropriate. I have already told you I am the negative portion of the electron of matter. I am the explosion in lightning. I am the pain in disease and physical suffering. I am the unseen general in warfare. I am the unknown commissioner of poverty and famine. I am the executioner extraordinaire at death. I am the inspirer of lust after the flesh. I am the creator of jealousy and envy and greed. I am the instigator of fear. I am the genius who converts the achievements of men of science into instruments of death. I am the destroyer of harmony in all manner of human relationships. I am the antithesis of justice. I am the driving force in all immorality. I am the stalemate of all good. I am anxiety, suspense, superstition, and insanity. I am the destroyer of hope and faith. I am the inspirer of destructive gossip and scandal. I am the discourager of free and independent thought. In brief, I am the creator of all forms of human misery, the instigator of discouragement and disappointment. Q. Lust and you do not call that cold and cruel. I call that definite and dependable. The world depression broke up the habits of men everywhere and redistributed the sources of opportunity in all walks of life on an unprecedented scale. The drifter's pet alibi, with which he tries to explain away his undesirable position, is his cry that the world has run dry of opportunities. Non-drifters do not wait for opportunity to be placed in their way. They create opportunity to fit their desires and demands of life. Hill speaks of the great opportunities that arose during the Great Depression and the fortunes that were made by those who seized those opportunities. I believe that Hill would say the same thing in our own day. Many opportunities exist today because of the economic turmoil. Will you seize one and create your own opportunity to fit your desires and demands of life? Q. Are non-drifters smart enough to avoid the influence of hypnotic rhythm? A. No one is smart enough to dodge the influence of hypnotic rhythm. One could just as easily avoid the influence of the law of gravity. The law of hypnotic rhythm fixes permanently the dominating thoughts of men, whether they be drifters or non-drifters. There is no reason why a non-drifter would want to avoid the influence of hypnotic rhythm, because that law is favorable to him. It helps him convert his dominating aims, plans, and purposes into their physical replicas. It fixes his habits of thought and makes them permanent. Only the drifter would wish to dodge the influence of hypnotic rhythm. Q. For the better portion of my adult life I have been a drifter. How did I manage to escape being swept into the whirlpool of hypnotic rhythm? A. You haven't escaped. The major portion of your dominating thoughts and desires, since you reached adulthood, has been a well-defined, definite desire to understand all the potentialities of the mind. You may have drifted on thoughts of lesser importance, but you did not drift in connection with this desire. Because you did not drift, you are now recording a document which gives you exactly what your dominating thoughts demanded of life. Q. Why doesn't your opposition use hypnotic rhythm to make permanent one's higher thoughts and nobler deeds? Why does your opposition permit you to use this stupendous force as a means of entangling people in a web of evil spun by their own thoughts and deeds? Why does your opposition not outwit you by binding people with thoughts which build and lift them above your influence? A. The law of hypnotic rhythm is available to all who will use it. I make use of it more effectively than does my opposition because I offer people more attractive bribes to think my sort of thoughts and indulge in my sort of deeds. Q. In other words, you control people by making negative thinking and destructive deeds pleasing to them. Is that correct? A. That is the idea, exactly. Chapter 7. Seeds of Fear. Q. I have often wondered why your opposition, what we earthbound call God, does not annihilate you. Can you tell me why? A. Because the power is as much mine as his. It is as available to me as to him. That is what I have been trying to get over to you. The highest power in the universe can be used for constructive purposes, through what you call God, or it can be used for negative purposes, through what you call the devil. And something more important still, it can be used by any human being just as effectively as by God or the devil. Q. You make a far-reaching claim. Can you prove your claim? A. Yes, but it would be better if you proved it for yourself. The devil's word is not worth much among you earthbound sinners. Neither is God's word. You fear the devil and refuse to trust your God. Therefore you have but one source available through which you may appropriate the benefit of universal power, and that is by trusting and using your own power of thought. This is the direct road to the universal storehouse of infinite intelligence. There is no other road available to any human being. Q. Why have we earthbound not found the road to infinite intelligence sooner? A. Because I have intercepted you and led you off the path by planting in your minds thoughts which destroy your power to use your minds constructively. I have made it attractive to you to use the power of infinite intelligence to attain negative ends, through greed, avarice, lust, envy, and hatred. Remember, your mind attracts that which your mind dwells upon. To divert you away from my opposition, I had only to feed you on thoughts helpful to my cause. Q. If I understand what you are saying, you are admitting that no human being need fear the devil or worry about how to flatter God. A. That is it precisely. This admission may put a crimp in my style, but I have this satisfaction of knowing it may also slow down my opposition by sending people direct to the source of all power. Here, as in some other points during the dialogue, Hill gets explicitly theological. Using the devil as a foil and letting words come out of the mouth of the symbol of evil, Napoleon Hill can lay out his thoughts and feelings about God. Infinite intelligence as the ultimate source for his overall philosophy of success. Q. In other words, if you cannot control people through negative bribes or fear, then you wish to kick over the entire apple cart and show people how to go directly to God. Are you, by any chance, in politics too? Your technique seems frightfully familiar. A. Am I in politics? If I am not in politics, who do you believe starts depressions and forces people into wars? Surely you would not lay this at the door of my opposition. As I have already told you, I have allies in all walks of life, to help me in connection with all human relationships. Q. Why don't you take over the churches and use them outright in your cause? A. Do you think I am a fool? Who would keep alive the fear of the devil if I subdued the churches? Who would serve as a decoy to attract the attention of people while I manipulate their minds if I did not have some agency through which to sow the seeds of fear and doubt? The cleverest thing I do is to use the allies of my opposition to keep the fear of hell burning in the minds of people. As long as people fear something, no matter what, I will keep a grip on them. Q. I am beginning to see your scheme. You use the churches to plant the seed of fear and uncertainty and indefiniteness in the minds of people. These negative states of mind cause people to form the habit of drifting. This habit crystallizes into permanency through the law of hypnotic rhythm. Then the victim is helpless to help himself. Is that right? Hypnotic rhythm, then, is something to be watched and respected. A better way of stating the truth is that hypnotic rhythm is something to be studied, understood, and voluntarily applied to attain definite desired ends. Q. If the force of hypnotic rhythm is not voluntarily applied to attain definite ends, may it be a great danger? A. Yes, and for the reason that it operates automatically. If it is not consciously applied to attain a desired end, it can, and it will, operate to attain undesired ends. Take the simple illustration of climate, for example. Anyone can see and understand that nature forces every living thing and every element of matter to adjust itself to her climates. In the tropics she creates trees which bear fruit and reproduce themselves. She forces the trees to adjust themselves to her scorching sun, else she forces them to put out leaves suitable for protection against the rays of the sun. These same trees could not survive if removed to the Arctic regions where nature has established an entirely different climate. In the colder climate she creates trees which are adjusted to survive and to reproduce themselves, but they could not survive if transplanted in the tropical regions. In the same manner, nature clothes her animals, giving to those in each different climate a covering suited to their comfort and survival in that climate. In a similar manner, nature forces upon the minds of men the influences of their environment, which are stronger than the individual's own thoughts. Children are forced to take on the nature of all influences of those around them unless their own thoughts are stronger than the influences. Nature sets up a definite rhythm for every environment, and everything within the range of that rhythm is forced to conform to it. Man, alone, has the power to establish his own rhythm of thought providing he exercises this privilege before hypnotic rhythm has forced upon him the influences of his environment. Every home, every place of business, every town and village and every street and community center has its own definite, discernible rhythm. If you wish to know what a difference there is in the rhythms of streets, take a walk up Fifth Avenue, in New York, and then down a street in the slums. All forms of rhythm become permanent with time. Q. Does each individual have his own rhythm of thought? A. Yes. That is precisely the major difference between individuals. The person who thinks in terms of power, success, opulence, sets up a rhythm which attracts these desirable possessions. The person who thinks in terms of misery, failure, defeat, discouragement, and poverty attracts these undesirable influences. This explains why both success and failure are the result of habit. Habit establishes one's rhythm of thought, and that rhythm attracts the object of one's dominating thoughts. Q. Hypnotic rhythm is something resembling a magnet which attracts things for which it has a magnetic affinity. Is that correct? A. Yes, that is correct. That is why the poverty-stricken herd themselves into the same communities. It explains that old saying, misery loves company. It also explains why people who begin to succeed in any undertaking find that success multiplies, with less effort, as time goes on. All successful people use hypnotic rhythm, either consciously or unconsciously, by expecting and demanding success. The demand becomes a habit, hypnotic rhythm takes over the habit, and the law of harmonious attraction translates it into its physical equivalent. Q. In other words, if I know what I want from life, demand it and back my demand by a willingness to pay life's price for what I want, and refuse to accept any substitutes, the law of hypnotic rhythm takes over my desire and helps, by natural and logical means, to transmute it into its physical counterpart. Is that true? A. That describes the way the law works. Q. Science has established irrefutable evidence that people are what they are because of heredity and environment. They bring over with them at birth a combination of all the physical qualities of all their numberless ancestors. After they arrive here, they reach the age of self-consciousness, and from there on they shape their own personalities and more or less fix their own earthly destinations as the result of the environmental influences to which they are subjected, especially the influences which control them during early childhood. These two facts have been so well established there is no room for any intelligent person to question them. How can hypnotic rhythm change the nature of a physical body which is a combination of thousands of ancestors who have lived and died before one is born? How can hypnotic rhythm change the influence of one's environment? People who are born in poverty and ignorance have a strong tendency to remain poverty-stricken and ignorant all through life. What, if anything, can hypnotic rhythm do about this? A hypnotic rhythm cannot change the nature of the physical body one inherits at birth, but it can and it does modify, change, control, and make permanent one's environmental influences. Q. If I understand what you mean, a human being is forced by nature to take on and become a part of the environment he chooses or the environment that may be forced upon him. A. That is correct. But there are ways and means by which an individual may resist the influences of an environment he does not wish to accept, and also a method of procedure by which one may reverse the application of hypnotic rhythm from negative to positive ends. Q. Do you mean that there is a definite method by which hypnotic rhythm can be made to serve instead of destroy one? A. I mean just that. Q. Tell me how this astounding end may be attained. A. For my description to be of any practical value, It will be necessarily lengthy because it will have to cover 7 principles of psychology which must be understood and applied by all who use hypnotic rhythm to aid them in forcing life to yield that which they want. Q. Then break your description into 7 parts, each giving a detailed analysis of one of the 7 principles, with simple instructions for its practical application. I have always been fascinated with how Hill's mind works. After building a case for impending doom, he now reveals the lifeline for anyone seeking success. This is a critical turning point. As you read further, will his 7 principles capture your imagination, as they did mine?
You at the graveyard, where you lay down, where you stay now, face down, cold, I'm no longer by my side now.